Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to really uncover the absolute baseline mechanics of human resilience.
Yeah, we're getting right down to the bedrock of it all today.
Exactly. We are exploring an excerpt from The Pursuit of Purpose, a guide to logotherapy, which it basically unpacks the monumental work of psychiatrist Viktor Frankl.
Right, specifically his experiences that he recorded in his book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah. And the central question we are trying to answer today is this. How does the human mind construct a sense of purpose when literally every physical certainty in your life has just been stripped away?
It is a heavy question.
It really is. And to really grasp this, I want you to just imagine waking up tomorrow morning and everything you have ever called your own is just gone.
Just completely on.
Yeah, your family, your home, your career, your freedom. You have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring.
Which is a terrifying scenario to even put yourself in.
Right. Your daily reality is suddenly defined by nothing but hunger, grueling labor, constant fear, and the very real, just looming possibility of death.
And that forces us to strip away all the philosophical luxuries we usually rely on.
Oh, absolutely. Which sets the stage for Frankl, right? Because he was thrust into the ultimate crucible of the World War II Nazi concentration camps.
Yeah, and Frankl wasn't just an ordinary prisoner. He was a trained psychiatrist.
Right.
He was someone who had spent his entire career up to that point studying the human mind. He was analyzing behavior in comfortable clinics, working within the dominant psychological frameworks of the early 20th century.
But then he gets thrown into this environment that is engineered for total human destruction.
Exactly. And he realized that a lot of those established clinical theories, they simply disintegrated.
They fell apart. So let's break down why that traditional psychology fell apart so quickly in that extreme environment.
Sure.
Because the leading theories of the time essentially argued that human beings are primarily driven by one of two things.
Right. Either a pursuit of pleasure or a pursuit of power.
Exactly. So avoiding pain to seek gratification or seeking power and superiority.
Yeah. But when you place a human being in a concentration camp,
Yeah.
I mean, pleasure is biologically impossible.
Right.
And power is systematically eradicated by the guard.
Completely eradicated. So if your entire psychological operating system is built on acquiring power or chasing pleasure, what happens?
The system crashes.
Exactly. The moment you are rendered completely powerless and subjected to constant agony, your mind has no further instructions. It encounters a fatal error.
Wow.
And Frankl watched this happen in real time. He observed that when prisoners lost their overarching framework for living, when they realized pleasure and power were just gone forever, a profound psychophysiological breakdown occurred.
Like their bodies literally shut down.
Yes, it wasn't just a matter of feeling sad. The loss of hope literally shut down their immune responses.
That is wild.
When the brain lacks a future-oriented goal, it just stops regulating the body's stress response. People would simply give up, and within days, their bodies would succumb to diseases that they had previously been fighting off perfectly fine. Which brings us to the counterintuitive observation that Frankl made as these agonizing months dragged on.
Right.
Because everyone looking at this situation was asking, how can anyone survive a place like this?
Yeah, we tend to think of survival as a purely physical equation, don't we?
Right. If you want to survive extreme conditions, you need youth, you need robust health, physical stamina, and huge caloric reserves.
That was definitely the medical assumption. But Frankl noticed the strongest survivors were not necessarily the youngest or the most physically fit when they arrived.
Really?
Yeah. The people with the greatest muscular strength or the highest stamina were frequently outlasted by those who were physically frailer, but who possessed a completely different kind of defense mechanism.
They had an invisible shield.
Exactly. They held on to a reason to live.
I love that. Think of it less like an engine pushing a vehicle and more like an internal thermostat.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. We usually view survival through the lens of pure physical architecture, like the strongest steel, the thickest walls. But a pristine exterior doesn't really matter if there's no engine driving the ship forward.
Yeah, the engine was entirely psychological.
Exactly. When the external environment drops to freezing, basic biology says the body should just freeze. But this psychological anchor, this reason to live it, acted as an internal regulator.
It essentially tricked the brain into keeping the furnace on.
Yes. Keeping the biological systems functioning, because the mind firmly believed it still had a destination to reach. The mind literally commanded the body to endure.
That thermostat concept captures the mechanism perfectly, honestly. It is an internal state dictating the physical response to an external extreme.
So realizing that this internal, invisible engine was keeping people alive, that led Frankl to a complete reevaluation of human motivation, right?
Oh, a massive shift. He moved completely away from the dominant psychological theories of his time. He recognized that those drives for pleasure and power were secondary at best.
Because if you remove pleasure and power, people can still survive.
Right. But if you remove meaning, they die. Frankl concluded that the ultimate, truest pursuit of the human species is the pursuit of meaning.
And the source lists some of the specific reasons prisoners held on to, right? Like dreaming of seeing a wife or finishing a pre-war book.
Yeah, relying on faith, or even just believing the suffering itself had a purpose. For Frankl, his own hope was to survive, be free again, and share these exact learnings with the world.
So the core realization here is that the Nazis could take away every physical possession, they could dictate everything about a person's body, but they could never control a person's ability to choose how they respond to their circumstances.
Never. And that irreducible internal freedom became the entire foundation of logotherapy.
Okay, I want to pause and push back on this a little bit on behalf of the listener. Because in our modern lives right now, it feels like we are completely obsessed with pleasure and power.
We definitely are.
Like, we spend our entire week chasing the weekend for pleasure or chasing a promotion for power. So, is Frankl saying those are just illusions? That they don't matter?
Well, the text clarifies this. He isn't saying pleasure and power are illusions or that they don't exist. Of course, they exist as motivators.
Okay.
But they aren't the greatest motivations. If you have all the pleasure and power in the world but lack a fundamental sense of meaning, your psychological structure will still eventually collapse. Meaning is the only thing strong enough to sustain a person when pleasure and power are entirely removed.
Which makes perfect sense when you look at modern affluent societies. We have endless pleasure, dopamine hits from our phones, and unprecedented personal power. Yet, we are seeing a massive spike in depression and anxiety.
It really is an epidemiological meaning crisis. Meaning is the bedrock.
Okay, so if meaning is our ultimate biological and psychological driver, the big question is, how do we practically locate it in our own lives?
Right. Frankl didn't just leave this as an abstract philosophy.
No, he identified 3 distinct accessible paths. And since this is the core of his framework, let's really focus on these 3 ways to find meaning.
Absolutely. The first way the text breaks down is creating something valuable.
Okay, creating something valuable. Like what?
This can be our work, our art, or our tangible contributions to the world. In the camps, this took very specific forms. The source mentions a prisoner who simply wanted to live long enough to finish a book he had started writing before the war.
Oh, wow. So just the act of creating that specific thing anchored his mind in the future.
Exactly. It's the realization that you have a unique responsibility to bring something into existence that literally no one else can. If he died, the book died with him. That sense of irreplaceable responsibility forces the brain to look forward.
Right. So for someone listening today, that creative act might be launching a business, raising a child, writing code, or even just tending to a community garden.
Yeah, it's the tangible contribution we make.
But relying solely on creation has a vulnerability, doesn't it? What happens if you physically cannot work or create? Like someone who is completely incapacitated by illness.
That is exactly where Frankl introduces the second path. When the ability to create is stripped away, you can find meaning through love and meaningful relationships.
Just through relationships?
Yeah, and the source specifically notes a really profound psychological reality here. Sometimes, just the simple memory of someone we love is enough to carry us through the absolute darkest moments.
Wait, just a memory?
Just a memory.
Yeah.
The physical presence of the person isn't even required. Frankl observed prisoners who focused on the image of their wives, just conversing with them in their minds.
Wow.
The meaning generated by that deep connection regulated their nervous systems. It was an internal sanctuary that the external trauma couldn't touch.
It proves that love isn't just a secondary emotion, it's an actual survival mechanism.
It really is.
But, I mean, we have to address the limits of this too. What if a person's situation is so overwhelmingly agonizing that even an internal sanctuary isn't enough?
That brings us to the third path, which the text actually calls perhaps the most important way to find meaning.
Okay, let's hear it.
It is how we face unavoidable suffering.
How we face unavoidable suffering.
Yes, we don't choose our hardships, but we absolutely choose our attitude toward them.
Okay, wait. Let me push back on this one. Because telling someone who is going through a devastating tragedy to find meaning in their suffering Sounds dangerously close to romanticizing pain.
I can completely see how it sounds like that.
Like, is Frankl saying that suffering is inherently good? If someone is in a highly toxic work environment where they are abused daily, are they supposed to just sit there and find a noble meaning in their suffering?
Yeah, that is a crucial distinction, and the source definitively clears this up.
Eh.
No, Frankl never claimed suffering is good.
Okay.
The key word here is unavoidable.
Unavoidable.
Yes. If a situation can be changed, your responsibility is to change it. If you are in a toxic job and you can leave, you leave. To suffer unnecessarily when you have the agency to escape is not meaningful, it's masochistic.
So logotherapy does not advocate for enduring avoidable pain.
Not at all. The third path only activates when you hit a wall of absolute unchangeability, an inoperable diagnosis, the tragic loss of a family member.
A natural disaster that wipes out your home.
Exactly. In those instances, you are faced with a hardship you cannot avoid and cannot undo. You don't celebrate the pain. But according to Frankl, even in that space of total helplessness, you retain the ultimate human freedom.
Which is the power to decide what that unchangeable suffering will mean in the context of your life.
Yes. Will it completely break your spirit, or will it become an opportunity to demonstrate courage and dignity to the people around you?
You choose the attitude. It's not pretending the bad thing is actually a good thing. It's refusing to let the bad thing rob you of your agency.
And understanding these three paths, creation, love, and our attitude toward unavoidable suffering, it forces us to radically redefine two concepts we use every day.
Hope and freedom.
Right.
The source material is very explicit about this. Hope is defined in the text not as pretending everything is fine.
No, not at all.
Hope is simply finding one single reason to keep moving forward, even when everything seems completely lost.
And furthermore, the text stresses that our greatest freedom isn't found in our external circumstances. It's found in our internal ability to choose our purpose and attitude.
Which brings us to the anchor quote of Frankl's philosophy. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
It's timeless. That is the essence of true resilience.
I want to connect this directly to you, the listener, because the text promises that life will always present pain, failure, and uncertainty. That's a given.
Yeah, you can't escape it.
But think of Frankl's version of hope like a compass in a severe storm.
Oh, I like that.
Right. The compass doesn't make the rain stop. It doesn't pretend the storm isn't happening. The wind is blowing. Things are being destroyed.
The storm is very real.
It's very real. But the compass gives you a direction to walk so you don't just collapse in the mud and freeze. It doesn't change the weather, but it changes your ability to navigate it.
And following that compass is true freedom. When the external world is locked down, the internal world remains infinitely expansive. You can still choose to be brave or kind. You construct purpose out of thin air.
So let's briefly recap the journey of this deep dive today. We started in the absolute darkest of human circumstances, the concentration camps of World War II.
Right. To discover an unbreakable truth.
That humans are fundamentally driven by meaning, not power or pleasure. And we really focus on logotherapy's 3 practical paths to finding that meaning.
Through creation, through love, and through our chosen attitude toward unavoidable suffering.
It's a framework that guarantees you always have the capacity to find a reason to continue. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, building on the source text.
What's that?
Well, the text mentions that meaning can be found through creating something valuable, and it also notes that sometimes just the memory of someone we love is enough to carry us through the darkness.
Yeah, we discussed both of those.
Right, but if you put those together, it creates a really profound loop. Think about it. The meaningful contributions you create today, or the love you build with someone right now, might actually become the exact memory that saves someone else from their own dark moments tomorrow.
Well, wow.
The internal sanctuary you are building in someone else's mind could be their ultimate defense mechanism years from now.
That is incredibly powerful.
So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are you living right now in a way that your memory could be someone else's ultimate survival?
If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more book summaries, self-improvement content, productivity tips, and personal development lessons.